Hi guys, and welcome back to episode 28 of Verville. Today we have a lot of different plans. First of all, we're gonna build a CSUR mountain highway with a nice cliff wall and really nice bridges everywhere. And secondly, we're gonna develop the peninsula where the high-speed rail will go through, and also where I will build a zoo in the near future. But for now, let's get started with the CSUR mountain highway. I'm trying to connect here the CSUR networks to the normal vanilla networks, and you only need to set the CSUR roads as two ways and ground level roads, and then they connect just fine. I don't really know what the issue is. A lot of people seem to have issue with that, but I think it doesn't look too bad. There I showed you quickly what roads are working with the vanilla connection. Yeah, just pause the video or let it run a little bit slower to really see what I was doing there. Especially in the combination with the new intersection marking mod, you can make these transition parts look just fine, I guess. Now I'm just changing this vanilla road to all the CSUR networks. And it was quite tricky because all the height differences there, and the railway network that goes under the highway, and over there the viaduct is going over the network, and then we have another highway that's crossing the river over there. It was really tricky to squeeze all these networks in that limited area. And then I thought it would look quite cool if I split up the highway to have one direction on a way higher level than the other one. I thought this just makes this whole highway even more interesting than it already is. And it's actually quite common to see highways like this in Switzerland. They often have to split the lanes kind of, and have one lane going in a way other direction than the other one, just to get around certain cliffs or hills or whatever. Just have a look for yourself here. When I build these CSUR highway networks, I always just lay down the segments in a straight line and move them afterwards with the Move It mod into the correct position, and just level out the heights and all that stuff. And obviously, because these networks are not terrain conforming, you have to adjust all the terrain by yourself, and it's a really tedious work. And that's also why I'm gonna cut out a lot of it, because it's not really all that interesting. It's just really annoying to build, but totally worth it. At this point I was trying to create another interesting feature. I wanted to have this short tunnel for the upper highway, and it's a quite common feature in the Swiss Alps to cover the entrance part of a tunnel with these, I think they are called shed tunnels or galleries in German. But don't ask me where I got this asset from. I have absolutely no idea. I just know it's called Dong for some reason in the game. But yeah, as I said, I have no idea where it actually comes from, but I'm happy I discovered it by accident. And then, as usual with these CSUR networks, just tweaking every single node a little bit, and curving all the straight segments to the right position, adjusting the terrain again. And here I'm trying to recreate another interesting part of a highway. I actually drove along this highway just very recently when I went for a vacation to the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, and it's a really cool highway because it's very close to the lake. On the other side there's this insane cliff wall, and it's so cool being in between this crazy cliff wall and the lake on the other side, and just a very stunning scenery. Actually, let me show you that on Google Earth again. As you can see, I was really into these shed tunnels, so I built a couple more of them. And the next interesting feature for this highway was this highway bridge over this bay area here. I had to build it quite high, the bridge, so ships in the future can go past under it. Unfortunately, this highway tunnel turned out a little bit too steep, but I thought it doesn't matter that much because no one's gonna see it anyway. As for the design for this bridge here, I went for the suspension bridge. We actually don't have that many suspension bridges in Switzerland, but I really liked the design of this particular one. I think it's the Anzac bridge from the workshop, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously I turned it into PO to adjust the scale so it fits perfectly for this bay here. Even though it's probably totally unnecessary from a statical point of view, I decided to tune these pylons down even more to fit actually two of them, because I thought it looks a little bit better. Then I deleted the pillars that come with the highway networks and replaced them with these pillars from the railway replacer mod. I think they look really cool, very contemporary, only concrete and sharp edges. And for some reason it turned out to be quite tricky to exactly fit the width of these pillars to the pillar that comes with this Anzac bridge here. I don't know why I struggled so much with it, but yeah, in the end it worked somehow. Always the mandatory check how it looks from the distance. And then I had to flip this asymmetrical highway, because on the other side of the tunnel it was exactly the same, and I thought, yeah, the cars need to be able to overtake from time to time, so you always have to flip these asymmetrical lanes. And for the final touch I added these expressway pillars, the horizontal ones. And for some reason they really added to the look of the bridge. It looked way more realistic with them. And now we moved back to this cliffside highway, because I still wasn't totally convinced about this texture cliff that's coming from the map theme. So I thought, why not putting some of these awesome rocks from the creator Grey Flame over these shed tunnels and along this cliff wall. I imagined it to be way easier than it actually was. I thought I could just put one of these rocks on top of each other and it would look fine. But it was actually quite tricky to kind of squeeze them together in such a fashion that it looked like one consistent cliff wall. To be honest, I'm not totally convinced about the final look of it, but I'll let you decide. You can write in the comments what do you think of it. I even turned some of them into PO and flipped them around to try to squeeze them better together somehow. And later on I even adjusted the coloring of these rocks. On the top of these cliff walls I tilted the rocks slightly, because obviously you cannot create a vertical cliff wall only with the terrain from the map or the base game itself. That just doesn't work. But I still tried to make this cliff wall as steep as somehow possible. So yeah, as I said, I had to tilt the opposite rocks a little bit so it reconnects somehow with the terrain over there. And after I took another look at Google Maps, I realized that in this cliff wall itself there were a lot of these rocks sticking out of it that were totally overgrown on top of them. So I also tried to recreate that one, which also turned out to be really tricky, because I don't use the tree snapping mod because it's not compatible with the unlimited trees mod, And on this crazy big map with so many trees, I totally need the unlimited trees mod. To work around that issue, I only had to squeeze these rocks very close to the actual terrain so that the trees stick actually to the real ground. But it looks like they are growing from these rocks. The second part of this episode focuses on this peninsula over here. I wanted to fill that or to do something with that peninsula for a really long time already, because it's in the middle of the capital city and the villages, and the areas didn't feel that connected because I left the space empty for such a long time. But then I finally got a really cool idea for the area here. And I got the idea from my vacations as well, because I went boating on a river with my friends, very close from where I live actually. And the area is just beautiful with the river. If I'm not mistaken, it's a natural reserve there, and there are absolutely no people, and it's really quiet and really beautiful. But the origin of this area was actually that they had to redirect the river a little bit, because they built a river power plant on one side of this peninsula. They had to build this artificial canal for the river to produce the power. And on the other side of the peninsula, the river has been left untouched almost, except for the dams that are located right in the beginning and in the end of the peninsula itself, to control the water flow, the levels, and just to redirect how much water is actually going into the power plant and how much is being left in the natural area of the river. So let's maybe talk about what exactly am I building on screen here. So I started off with the upper dam first, and you saw me probably already building the other river power plant, but it's actually really funny. There are so many different ways on how to build such a dam, and this time I decided to go for this Q wall asset, it's called, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, on screen it's basically just that pavement strip that's going over the river there. It's basically an invisible key, but as it is with these keys, they raise a lot of the terrain up, so it was really tricky to hide that dirt wall somehow. And yeah, now I'm just building these kind of shovels or doors for the water with the hydraulic stabilization to open and close these water gates. For that I just used the catenaries from the railway replacer mod, turned them into PO, adjusted the size a little bit, and copy pasted the whole thingy. This might be a handy advice for other players out there. I always try to build these kind of finished objects like an assembly line, so I can just copy paste them afterwards. It's saving so much time. You just have to build once a very detailed object and then you just copy paste it. And I actually use that technique all the time. Sometimes I'm just going around in the city and looking for these finished builds, for instance like bus stops or tram stops or stuff like that. Just grab them, copy paste them, and place them in another area. It's saving so much time, and you'll never notice that this exact build exists already somewhere else in the city, so why not make good use of that? So I just found out that these dams are actually called barrage, and not dams at all, because they don't really hold back that crazy amount of water. It's really just to control the water levels a little bit. And yeah, I really needed to block all the water in this little area here, because you know how it is with City Skylines and the water characteristics. They are really unrealistic and destroy all the nice detailing that is built close to the water. So I totally blocked that area to have this separated water body. And yeah, to really block the water, you need a dirt wall somehow. You can achieve that with terrain conforming networks, or just raise the terrain by hand a little bit, or like I did it in this case with a key. But as I said, you raise the actual ground, and a real barrage that doesn't work like this. You have the water actually comes very, very close to these actual water gates, and it just doesn't look all that realistic with these pavement strips that go right over the river. But it's the best that you can do with City Skylines. I will build another barrage in a little bit, where I tried a different technique, and you can decide what you think looks more realistic. I actually like both looks. Oh yeah, so here we are already. So this time I decided to go with these Japanese sea defense wall. That asset comes with two different type of networks. The first one is not terrain conforming, and the second one is terrain conforming. And for some reason, this specific asset doesn't raise the terrain that much like the other keys. So yeah, the raised terrain is much narrower than with the vanilla keys. And the barrage that is located close to where I live had this round shape to it. So I was looking for pipes to enlarge them with PO again, but unfortunately I don't have that many pipe assets in Verville, so I had to use these this set of 4 different pipes and disconnect 3 pipes from it, and turn them very small and hide them in the actual pipe I wanted to need, enlarged that pipe and placed it right on this Japanese sea defense wall, and stretched them to the whole width of the river. I really started to appreciate all these pillars that come with all the different networks, because they are so versatile, especially when you turn them into PO. You can just create so many different things with them. And even though the principle is quite similar to the other dams I already built, all of them look really unique and have their own personal touch to them. And something I definitely wanted to do with this specific barrage here was to make great use of these animated waterfall assets, because I don't know how this works, but for some reason you can turn these into PO and they work just fine. And so you can really manipulate that asset to your own needs. And I wanted to have this water overflow, because I always like to include assets that actually move or are animated. It just really adds so much to the whole build when it's actually moving and it seems like it's working. So I even flipped some of these waterfall assets to cover the area on the barrage that is not underwater, because as I said, that's the deal when you are working with these keys. As for the smaller detailing, I really wanted to have this German one-way sign. It's actually a road sign, but the real sign to advise people not to pass through this specific area on the river looks really similar, except for it being squared and not round. But I actually tried to make this sign round with PO, but it just doesn't look good at all. So I just went for the round sign, and I think it looks really good. I thought it might be cool for pedestrians to be able to pass over this barrage here. So I added the footpath and the mandatory grey flame rocks everywhere a little bit. I know they are actually a little bit too big for this specific area here, but it just looks so good, and they add so much to every area you put them. Then a little bit of these smaller rocks, and just trying to detail the riverbank a bit. And also a very common thing you see with these barrages are that they almost always have these exit points for smaller boats. So if you get too close to them, you can still escape the current from the river. So it's not too dangerous. Not that I advise people to go very close to them, but yeah, you can escape over there. So I built this ramp for the boat, this little crane that is also meant to pick out driftwood. Put a lot of greenery everywhere, connected that ramp to the actual footpath. And we are almost at the end of today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this voiceover for my Verville series as well. As always, leave your feedback in the comments. I read them all, I try to implement the stuff, and as usual, I apologize for my crappy upload schedule that is non-existent. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time. And don't forget to like and subscribe.